prime time on the top game, it's a fine line. Man in the match, that's Dave I. He's the main guy, keep a close eye. Make sure you don't make no wrong play, cause I'm with Jose and Andre. When Cyrus comes to walk in, you better know that you are watching Premier League. Dave I, tell what time we on. Prime time. Let me hear you say Premier League. Dave I, tell what time we on. Prime time.
Hello and welcome to Premier League Primetime. And before we start, well, obviously Season 5, Episode 2, but I have to give a very, very quick shout out to the head of the journalism department here at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for lending this amazing recording room and news production center. Greatly appreciate it. So, you definitely need to get your kudos for that. But we are here back again. It's been a while, as I always typically say. Season 5, Episode 2. Unfortunately, Sirius pulled out last minute, but no need to worry. We have Jose and Andre here. How are we doing? Fantastic. Same, different settings, regardless of where I am in the world, but of course, it's tradition. And with that, we're just going to move straight into business as per usual.
Doing good, Davis.
Doing well as always. And first, now getting into looking at the last month, I'd say the last month, every team's played 5 games. Starting with Arsenal. Taking a look at Arsenal's last 5 games, what's our evaluation of Arsenal all around from every aspect?
Football terrorism, defensive masterclass, but football terrorism. They stay in their bot. Mikel Arteta's men have, I think it still shows strength that they've grinded out these results, even though they're not, the peak Arsenal that we've come to know over the past couple seasons. I think they're still gelling together, this 24-25 team, but yeah, defensively in every game, I mean, they've just looked incredibly difficult to get past. I think Gabriel has been quite good, and they've done perfectly well even through the Declan Rice suspension. So credit to them.
No, that defense as a cohesive unit is, you could say, it's potentially the best in the league.
Yeah.
If you let Arsenal score on you, it feels like the game's good as done. Unless if you're Man City, really. Because you look at that defense and they are solid as a rock. Pause. At the back, Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White's even getting moved around a bit. Calafiori debuted against Man City. Got the goal, was a bit shaky. I can't lie, I wasn't too convinced, but it's Man City at the end of the day. So, my opinion on a player isn't going to be solely on whether you have a good or poor performance against Manchester City, because anyone can, right? So looking at an area of Arsenal that's not on the positive side of things, I think we need to talk about the attacking side for Arsenal. Shouldn't the Arsenal supporters be concerned with a lack of goals? Bar Bukayo Saka, should Arsenal be concerned with their lack of goal scoring output up front?
I mean, I don't think they should be too concerned. I think that last season we saw them grinding out a lot of results like this early on in the season. A lot of 2-1 victories, just 1-goal wins based on a solid defense, and counting on star players like Saka to perform in the big moments.
It always is Saka. I think that's the
problem.
Yeah,
of course. And I think that there is a bit of an area of concern with Martinelli on the left still. I think he's still not really established himself as a proper goal-scoring Premier League winger. I think that they can definitely look to improve in that position potentially in January if they really want to make another serious title push. But then again, I think that Arsenal are a team who, at least last year, were grinding out a lot of these important results early on in the year, and then as the year got on, they started scoring way more goals, started winning games 4-1, 5-1. So I think that could be a trend we see again this year. So I don't think there's too much cause for concern, but I think that they could improve on the left for sure.
And also, I mean, I think Arsenal fans are immediately, if they're worried at all about that attacking output, immediately I think they're going to run to, okay, no Odegaard. When he comes back, he's going to give us this huge bounce.
That's
He's
a
our
huge
creative
miss
force.
A
So
huge miss for them.
yeah, so I think even if it's not looking too positive right now, I think if they just stay strong, the fans are going to run to that excuse, and they're probably right to. And when Odegaard comes back, it'll give them a good bounce.
That's a huge miss for them, though. If you think about it, Arsenal got rid. They sent Fabio Vieira on loan. Emil Smith Rowe.
Davis, we can't hear you.
Yeah, I think you're having some audio trouble.
Are you covering the mic?
No, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
All right, my fault. But when you look at Emil Smith Rowe, right, he's gone to Fulham and he's playing well. And they deemed him not good enough to be part of the project moving forward. And if you're Gabriel Martinelli and you looked at your performances last season, he should be on thin ice because, Jose, you're absolutely spot on. When you look at left wingers in the world, you can attain. We're not going to, be incredibly unrealistic, right? But when you look at, players in that position, that are better technically and all around than Gabriel Martinelli, of course there are. There absolutely are, and there are definitely several, whether it's in the league, in the Premier League, or around Europe. So I think Martinelli's, really needs to step up and perform. And apart from Saka, and the manager doesn't start Trossard weekly. Even I'm a big fan of Trossard, but he doesn't play every week. The manager doesn't like to play him every week. I think apart from those two, I think Arsenal could do with a whole revamp and attack. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so. They're still clearly. Not that Kai Havertz has done a bad job, but they're still lacking that quintessential number 9, I'll say. And then in regards to Martinelli, there's such a high ceiling at Arsenal for these young players because they're young and a lot of them are kind of outperforming for their age. But how old is Gabriel Martinelli now? He's still young though.
Yeah, he's still
22 maybe.
This is why I'm serious. He's always got the fact checks. He's always got the fact checks. Serious come back.
Yeah, I'll go real quick. You guys go ahead.
But speaking of attackers, and a perfect one to throw to Jose, Raheem Sterling is an Arsenal player. Jose, any thoughts on that?
He just scored his first goal today, I believe, for Arsenal. So congratulations to him. I'm not happy about it, but it is what it is. I think that it's not a bad signing. You're taking a decent winger, I guess I'll say, off Chelsea.
And it's a loan deal.
Yeah, and it's a
Like
loan
him, they can
deal.
send him back.
It's a good squad player to have, definitely, especially since they've sold Smith Rowe. So not a bad signing at all for Arsenal.
And supposedly the players in training have been raving over how well Sterling has been performing. So he seems to be gelling in pretty well.
The one thing that I will say, right, with training, right, we've seen it, especially with Manchester United for years. Anyone can look good in training, right? We can get all the training videos, put them all in a comp, put it up on YouTube or socials and whenever. Everyone gets gassed, and then you look at them in a game, and more times than not, they're not able to replicate what they've done in the training comps. So you never know, but then again, playing devil's advocate, you never know. That could very well be the case. Raheem Sterling and Mikel Arteta, definitely have their know each other from the past, their time at Man City for a while. Raheem Sterling said that Mikel Arteta was a big reason as to why he progressed so much at Manchester City, along with Pep Guardiola, but pointing him out. So I feel like is Sterling an upgrade on Martinelli in certain areas? Yes. However, it was done so last minute. Part of me thinks that was he really a part of the plan? Because if he was a part of the plan, they would have signed him early in the summer. You know what I mean? And thinking about that, it makes me think, what was Arsenal's real plan in the summer? Just throwing on a different perspective here, because I didn't hear anything about Calafiori till after the Euros or during the Euros. So just, it's a part of my mind that always switches on. But definitely kind of interesting to think about it. Moving away from Arsenal into Aston Villa, taking a look at their last 5 games, scores and ratings for Unai Emery and center players with on a negative and positive side of things.
I would say they've. I would immediately point out John Duran
100%,
and Amadou Onana. I think they've both been absolutely fantastic in every game that Aston Villa have played so far this season. I think that Onana is such a different player, different type of player to the man he replaced, Douglas Luiz. But I think that he's pitching in his own way, and it's very, very exciting to see. He's been fantastic so far this season. And John Duran, I don't know if there's another striker, maybe Lewandowski or someone who's more on form than this man right now. Right now, he's banging in goals for fun. I think every game I've seen Aston Villa play, except for the Arsenal game, I think he scored a goal in. So it's been fantastic.
And for all of our users and subscribers who do fantasy football, if you somehow don't have John Duran in your team by now, go put John Duran in your team if you want some points. Just go do it. Whether this will be a little purple patch, whether this will be like a Rashford 22-23 season kind of thing versus a very long purple patch, or whether this is serious progression. And when you look at Ollie Watkins, right, not that he's, been poor, but when you look at what he was doing last season, you look at him now, it's definitely not, keeping bar in mind, he did play in the Euros and all that, didn't play that much. But if you're Ollie Watkins, should you look at what John Duran's doing and be the slightest bit worried, or not really, just overreacting?
I guess maybe a little bit, but at the end of the day, I think he knows that worst comes to worst. I mean, there will be plenty of suitors for Ollie Watkins, right? He's not. He's still a young player. We all know what he's capable of.
Not. So. He's in his late 20s.
He's like 27.
Might be 28.
I was thinking 27. Well, it's not young, but I just mean he's still got
20,
good.
Yeah.
He's got a few good years left.
He's in the peak. He's in the peak end of his prime. Ollie Watkins. In regards to the kind of footballers that they are, him and John Duran are definitely very, very different. John Duran is in regards to linking play, I'd say he's definitely better. Ollie Watkins, in regards to linking the play, Watkins is dreadful in trying to link play, create chances off. Ollie Watkins, give him space in behind, you're gonna, he will punish you. Pause. Literally. You saw what he done last season. Do I think he can get back to form this season? Yes, he definitely can. And Onana, Jose, you definitely mentioned it. I mean, how good is this guy on set pieces?
Yeah, he's incredibly dangerous. Incredibly dangerous. Such a great physical presence. Great player to have on the team, and he's really well paired up with Tielemans. I think who basically complements everything that Onana doesn't have. I mean, Tielemans has fantastic passing range. Not that Onana doesn't, but I just think that Tielemans complements the way Onana plays so well. They work really well together.
No, definitely, and of course, they'll know each other from their time with and continued times with Belgium. But for me, I see. Someone called me crazy for this a long while ago, but I see Onana in a sense a more defensively sound and better version of Scott McTominay, because when you look at the kind of player that he is, he's a box crusher. You always see him going, getting forward. And when you look at Villa on set pieces, the presence that Onana has, take him out. Aston Villa don't have players like that. I wouldn't even say the center backs, not even Konsa, Mings, or wherever he is. Pau Torres, none of them have that, massive presence that Onana has. And, very different dynamic, but a very good dynamic to have. And lastly, a player to talk about, Morgan Rogers. What's wrong? What is wrong with Morgan Rogers right now? What do you guys think?
I'm not exactly sure. He's not been performing quite well, so I don't know. I don't know what it is, to be honest.
No, fair enough. Because when, again, similar to Watkins, when you look at him at the end of the last season, you look at him a bit at, this season, just looks a bit burnt out. Maybe Bailey needs to come back into the side. But if there's a manager that, I wouldn't have any doubt in him, making the changes in any area of the pitch, whether it's team selection or system, it's going to be Unai Emery. I mean, Matty Cash has been injured for how long? And Unai Emery's making it work. That's just the kind of manager that he is. And he's and he's shown it for years, from countless teams and Europa Leagues and Cup finals that he's played in. This guy's one of the golden standards at tactical flexibility.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, again, we're here talking about, the future of these players with Watkins and Morgan Rogers. But at the end of the day, we're only 5 matches into the season.
Yeah.
John Duran's in this purple patch, but even if he isn't, it would be otherworldly for him to keep this kind of consistency over the rest of the season. So there's still absolutely a place for Ollie Watkins to fight for Villa, and obviously Morgan Rogers is. I think he got an assist against Wolves, so he's we'll see what he's capable of. But we're just starting the season, so it's hard to talk about how these players will fit into this
definitely.
season.
Definitely, and you're exactly right. It is 5 games in. However, with some players, with certain players, you can kind of in a way predict. What could happen, could be right, could be wrong, but you can make some sort of educated guess. In regards to the players that you've seen and know what they've done in the past and know how they are, just it's always good to throw it out though. Next, moving away from Aston Villa into Bournemouth, scores and ratings for Andoni Iraola and standout players on the negative and positive side of things.
I think Iraola has certainly. Ever since that early skepticism with his appointment, I mean, he has more than proven his managerial capability. I still think Bournemouth have looked really great. I know there's been a lot of worry surrounding Evan Nilsson and his and how he's going to fare. At the end of the day, I think they say it can take a foreign player to take it can take 2 years for them to really show their colors in the Premier League.
First season syndrome.
Yeah, so the guys, I feel like it might be tough for him to keep his head up, but I think with the right support system, I think I think he could be he's not going to be Dominic Solanke replacement right away, and I think they had to know that when they signed him, right? They didn't go and sign a proven striker right now. They signed someone for the future because that's the kind of the sort of transfer strategy. That's the sort of strategy that Bournemouth have been following. And at the end of the day, I think it's exciting to have that kind of striker fit in with the likes of with the likes of their other attacking talent.
I think he's different, a bit different than definitely a very different profile to Dominic Solanke. Dominic Solanke does the link play. He links play well, and he creates space and chances for players alongside him. And that was, I think, a big reason why when you look at the likes of Tavernier and Kluivert and Semenyo last season and why they were getting a lot of those goals. It's because of you look at what Solanke also has in his game. And it's also not just his ability to score goals, but to also be a net positive for everyone else, to link play. And his ability just as a pure footballer as well. It's always a net positive. And I think Evan Nilsson, different profile, definitely doesn't have the hold up and link up play that Solanke has. So, Iraola has had to, tactically and systematically, make the changes that are needed in that Bournemouth side. And you're right with the player recruitment as well. I mean, the signed the likes of Julian Araujo from Barcelona, right back, Dejan, Richard's last name, but he's a young Swedish centre back from Juventus. Signed him for around 15 million. Very good young prospect. Milo Kirkes, very good left back. Bournemouth have a decent side. They have a decent side.
The thing that is worrisome though, it's like, because I really am a fan of literally just watching the Bournemouth attack, and I was last year. But the thing is, without Dominic Solanke, that is 19 goals out of their team. He's got 19 goals for them last season, and I kind of feel like having a striker like that at a club like Bournemouth kind of took some of the pressure off the likes of their other attacking talent with Semenyo and Kluivert and who am I forgetting? Tavernier and Sustera. I don't think there was much pressure for them to kind of really stack up their just their output, their direct goal contributions. I feel like even if they were getting chances, not putting them away at the end of the day, you said Dominic Solanke kind of picking up the pieces. But now with even Ilson having to gel in, I think there is an escalated pressure on these players to really be more clinical. I think Bournemouth, if these guys don't step up and work on their clinicality, then we could see a frustrated Bournemouth coming into mid-season. So we'll see.
And I think another thing that we can also take a look, let's see if the likes of Semenyo and these attackers that flourished with Solanke last season, let's see if they're still able to put up, maybe not as many numbers, but some numbers as well. Let's see if they can. Because if they're still able to do so, as well as Dominic Solanke's been doing, one could make the argument, okay, they were also still doing their job. It wasn't purely because of Solanke. Because look, they're still doing their job now. But if they're not, and they continue, and it's sort of continuing in this kind of direction, one can definitely make the argument, and we'll really highlight, Solanke's importance. And it's been difficult for Bournemouth because not only Solanke's gone, don't forget Richard Hughes is gone as well. Their former director of football gone to Liverpool, and he was, instrumental in a lot of these signings. I think he was the one who brought in Solanke. Perhaps I could be wrong. If he was there at the time, goalkeeping changes as well. Kind of odd to see Kepa at Bournemouth. Just I don't know. I just find that odd. Jose, what do you think about that?
Seeing Kepa at Bournemouth?
Neto gone to Arsenal to be the number 2, and he's been replaced with Kepa.
I mean, I think it's probably Kepa's level, to be honest. I don't think he's really much better goalkeeper than that. I don't really rate Kepa at all, so yeah.
No, I think that's definitely very fair to say. I think with the ball at his feet as a ball playing goalkeeper, I mean, we saw how good he was at Athletic Bilbao. Had a horrible time at Chelsea. He was back up at Real Madrid. So I don't know what's next to happen to Kepa. Maybe
he was signed to be the starting goalkeeper because Courtois was injured. And he very, very quickly lost his spot to Andre London because everyone realized at Real Madrid how terrible he is.
No, yeah, it's definitely been a rough time for him. I mean, it'll be interesting to see. Maybe at a club like Bournemouth because, Kepa hasn't been, at a club as, with all due respect to Bournemouth, they're not, on the stats of Real Madrid and Chelsea and even Bilbao. So it'll be interesting to see. I will kind of keep an eye out on it if it's same old Kepa or things improve. But moving away from Bournemouth into Brentford, scores and ratings for Thomas Frank can send up players on the positive and negative side of things.
Oh yes, Sucker Punch FC, quick start goal FC.
My days.
I would have to point out immediately the 2 players who have scored literally all the goals this season for Brentford, Johan Wissa and Brian Mbeumo. I mean, they really stepped up. But it's looking to me like it could be a slippery slope for Bournemouth right now because it's been very up
Brentford.
and down. Brentford. I think it could be a slippery slope just because we've already seen Wissa. Wissa was out for the last game and they scored 1 goal. Obviously, the game man who scored it was Mbeumo. But I think that if anything goes wrong with these 2 players this season, which it already looks like it's starting to, then they're going to be in some big, big trouble. And I think that they're leaking goals a lot. But they still have their Brentford energy, so I think that they can. Yeah. I think that they can definitely stay up, but I think that it's just going to be it'll be very tricky for them if anything happens to those 2 players.
No,
I
definitely.
I was just gonna say, I feel like I think of a player like Mikkel Damsgaard, who has, I think, struggled to really.
He really has.
Yeah, to just really play well. I think given how long Brentford have been just playing well in the Premier League, I feel like their recruitment has been subpar, and I think that's why we're going to see it start to struggle, or the project start to struggle if they lose Mbeumo and Wissa. Because again, it's like I kind of connected to what I was saying with Bournemouth. Is like when Brentford knew they were kind of ready to get rid of Tony because Wissa and
he was
Mbeumo
Maybe not to Saudi, which I think that shocked everyone.
Yeah,
I think that shocked everyone how, and apparently no one was. It was one of the only offers on the table. No one was seriously in for Ivan Toney to the point where clubs are making bids, which I'm genuinely shocked. If I look at a club like Arsenal and even Manchester United to a certain point of view, and definitely Chelsea, how they weren't really seriously in for Ivan Toney, I'm a bit surprised, but I guess we'll see what happens. He's done
yeah, and it's
so
definitely
much for Brentford. It'll be interesting to see in this post-Ivan Toney era, and not only taking a look at Ivan Toney and the likes of Mbeumo and Wissa, see if they stay or they go. What will happen if they have a goal drought or if they're injured? Thomas Frank, I think he, not only want to just seriously commend for how good of a manager he is. Is the time sort of ticking on Thomas Frank before he moves on?
Not for me. I mean, I think I agree with Andre. They've suffered a lot from poor recruiting or no recruiting at all. I mean, if you look back to the original Brentford team that came up from the Championship a few years ago, so many of those players are still starting games for Brentford in every match. So I think they really need to, I mean, not even improve, just like start signing players. Like they need to do something. They need to bring fresh legs in. They need to
100%. They need new blood.
I mean, you look at how much the Brighton team has changed over the past few seasons. That could have been Brentford. Brentford could have had the same pool that Brighton had.
No, that's very true. Very, very true. They definitely could have the same model, a similar model to that. No, I think you're absolutely right. There've been players that have been there for so long, and that not that some of them aren't good enough. Because I rate the likes of Norgard. I think he's a very good player. And again, the likes of Mbeumo and this Mark Flecken, the goalkeeper that they signed to replace Raya. Good, very good goalkeeper. Rate him very highly. Players like that. And even Rico Henry, good fullback. Rosalev, good fullback. But
Yeah.
I think you're absolutely right in the sense that they need to sign, not players that are just going to come in and fill a void, but players that, can compete and can actually come in and take their spot in the side. They need competition. And Jose and Andre, I think both of you are absolutely spot on.
They're on the verge of just staying pretty stale, and I think some recruitment would just freshen things right up. So yeah,
Definitely. Moving away from Brentford into the team that we were just talking about, and looking at their match in their past month of matches, scores and ratings hurt the new manager from San Pauli, Fabian Hürzeler, and stand-up players on a negative and positive side of things. Any one of you?
I mean, I think he's done a great job off the bat. Wins against Everton and Man United. I think it's been fantastic. I mean, manager's 31 years old.
Yep, I was about to say that.
I think that he's got Joao Pedro playing really well. I think Kaoru Mitoma is looking like his old self. Even Danny Welbeck is pitching in with a few goals. So I think he should be proud of the job he's done so far.
definitely.
No, absolutely. And on the likes of Joao Pedro, I told man about Joao Pedro. This guy's a bowler. I've said it for the longest time. He's a very good footballer, and I
Really
rate Joao
good.
Pedro. And I was saying, in regards to the four profiles that Man United should be looking at, he's one of the profiles. Very, very similar to Xerxes. Very, in regards to player profile, they're you could say they're roughly the same profile of footballer. A linkman up front. But I think Joao Pedro is a bit more clinical than Xerxes is, but very similar in regards to the assets that they have. Very good player. And you even look at the likes of their new signings. Kodioglu, that was a guy that I wanted. Brighton signed him. I think he scored in, was it their Carabao Cup match, or he scored recently. Kodioglu. But when you look at Brighton, and I want to highlight something that Andre had mentioned in regards to Brentford having the same team for for a long while. When you look at the spine of this Brighton team, Lewis Dunk's still there. I think Webster's being phased out. Yeah, a good amount of these players are being phased out, but some of them they're still existing, in the football club. And I think it's a difference in regards to how the ownership and the footballing and the board as well of each of the clubs go about replacing them, phasing them out, their scouting recruitments and all that. A player to also talk about on the not so good side of things, for all the positives that you have, right? Evan Ferguson, injury prone, and even when he's back, doesn't look like his usual self. Very young, recently signed a very long-term deal with Brighton. But what is wrong with Evan Ferguson? I mean, a few years ago, he was, one of the hottest properties in the Premier League, and he's fallen off a cliff. What do you guys think is wrong with Evan Ferguson right now?
I mean, the easiest thing to point out would be injuries. I think it's a lot of the times when you're getting injured a lot, you're getting injured and you're out for a while, and then you come back into the team and you struggle to really make an impact, you get injured again. Cycle can repeat. I don't know. That'd be my explanation for it, I guess.
No, I think that's fair. And I also think when you look at the likes of Welbeck, he's stepped up. You look at the likes of Pedro, his performances have been going up. And I think now, seeing the times where he's been back to full fitness, he looks at the other striking options around him and they're performing to a certain extent. And I think that's made it somewhat difficult for him to be brought back into the team, unless if it was, the other players were very clearly an outright, backups and bench players. Then fine, I could get it. But, when you look at the likes of Welbeck and Pedro, there's no need, they don't deserve to be dropped. You look at the way that they're performing and not just scoring goals. You look at what they're doing off the ball as well.
And with in regards to Ferguson, I mean, I think we're all aware of, given his age, like the sort of physicality he brings to the pitch, he backs into his opponent, and that's
definitely offers something different.
Yeah, and if you're, that's why if you keep going through injuries and then as soon as you're ready to come back and not even at your sharpest form, you got to come up against Premier League defenders, the most physical league in the world. It's going to be hard to be that same physical striker. I think if I'm Brighton, I'm going, this is a 19-year-old. Next time he comes back, no disrespect to Ferguson, but I'd maybe give him some time in the U21s, let him bully some other center backs for a little bit. Then when he
send him out
ready,
on loan. Loan him out either in the Championship or Premier League loan. I think that would be good for him. I think first team football is what he needs, personally. So I slightly disagree. Because I think first team football, especially in the Championship as well, or in the Premier League, is definitely very, very different in regards to intensity and platforms and all that from under 21s. But he is not a bad shout though. In regards to Hurtzler, how much credit are we giving him for an absolutely amazing run? And once again with Brighton, they always make these amazing stories, whether it's these players that they find from the favelas in Brazil or South America, or these managers that they find from literally gosh knows where. It's always just an incredible story with them. How much credit should we be giving Fabian Hurtzler for these for Brighton's start to the season? So they are unbeaten, by the way.
A lot of credit, definitely. Yeah, they are still unbeaten. I think that he's. I mean, as long as we've pretty much as long as we've known Brighton in the Premier League, they've always had a great manager, and he's just continued that. It looks like, at least the first 5 games. It might be too early to tell, but at least from the start, he definitely deserves a lot of credit.
Man, it looks like he already has the players and the fans, honestly, from what it seems like on the outside. So
100%. Very good. Britain has a good brand of football as the fans on side. And before we move to the next team, Jose, I just really want to highlight something that you said. Brighton have always had have had good managers, and there's a manager at Brighton, certain manager, who I wanted, and you look what he's doing at a certain club abroad, and they're tied for top of the league. So no, I couldn't agree more, Jose, with what you said there. Now moving into a team that is, I'd say, the most informed team in the league, bar maybe Man City, right? Chelsea Football Club. They've just, the transformation's just been incredible. Scores and ratings for Enzo Maresca and Santa plays both on the negative and positive side of things.
Yeah, he's how do I put it? I mean, I think we've all seen the Mourinho arrogance from him. It's very, very fitting to Chelsea. But no, he's ruled with an iron fist. He's been great. The recruitment and their attack has been great. There's just option after option after option after option. Like, it's just ridiculous the individual quality in this Chelsea attack and the stability that Maresca has brought to the Chelsea defense. They're a formidable side, and he deserves the credit. He's done well.
And I think one thing with Maresca, you can rule with an iron fist. But if you have no sort of transparency or lack any ability to, relate to the players, or speak clearly to the press, or just being somewhat a relatable figure. If you're just an authoritarian, in life, no one's going to, back you all the way. No one's going to want to do that if that's the only personality you are, and you struggle with other aspects of being relatable. But when you look at Maresca, he's very, very transparent. When asked about Raheem Sterling and Ben Chilwell, the way he replied, really, really stood out to me. Raheem Sterling, his numbers don't lie. Very good player, but he's just not my type of winger. Ben Chilwell, I love the guy. Very, very good personality to have around the club, but I'm afraid he's just not going to get many minutes. He's not my kind of left back. He should look for opportunities elsewhere. And I think the way he's dealing with especially with the exits of outgoings as well, even though one can have the debate over Conor Gallagher and the way that was handled, I'd say that's more the club than Maresca. Again, that's another one that Maresca handled very, very well. Chalobah similarly. Lukaku, I think they just want to get him out the door. But when you look at that as well, along with his actual game management and the style of football he plays, I think as of right now it's only 5 games. But looking at it as of right now, I think Chelsea can only go up from here. And when you look at the quality that they have in attack, they've gone from Mudryk and Madueke from being the main starters, and now Madueke is an out starter. Mudryk, I think, is third choice left winger now. They have the likes of Cole Palmer, Christopher Nkunku, Nicholas Jackson. All those people who kept saying, and I'm sorry, who said Højlund's better than Jackson. I need my receipts. And I like Højlund, but I'm sorry, I need my receipts.
Højlund is definitely better than Jackson.
I'm a fan of Nicholas Jackson. I'm a fan of both. I think you will. I think time will show you.
And play like Jackson can.
Dude, I was at the
Yes,
Chelsea
he can.
game.
Yes, he can.
Nicholas Jackson could have scored 5 goals in that game.
Yes, he's not clinical. Yes,
he's not clinical, right? And Højlund is clinical. Højlund just gets nowhere near as many chances as Jackson does.
I mean, Højlund scored for the first, and it's not that I don't like the kid. Pause. It's not like I don't like Højlund. I want him to do well. I want Højlund to do well. I just think for the money that we spent, I don't know if he's going to live up to it. I hope he can prove me wrong at any point. And of course,
he will. He will.
I hope he does.
The money is entirely irrelevant to me.
The price tag's not his fault.
What I see with Jackson is an objectively terrible striker, and what I see with Højlund is an objectively very good striker. So we can agree to disagree if you'd like, but that's my take.
I see Jackson as a terrible finisher. Pause. Right. But at the same time, he's a very, very good footballer in the way he links play.
I don't know if I agree with you on that at all.
Yeah.
But putting Nicholas Jackson aside, right? You look at the other options that they have. They have Christopher Nkunku. Cole Palmer, of course, is Cole Palmer. We all know.
Yeah.
Madueke, who offers something different. Mudryk's, at this point, just last choice. Pedro Neto, Jadon Sancho. You look at all of these options that Chelsea have. And you look at the common theme of most of these players. They're all very, very good technical footballers. When you look at the bulk of that attack. It says the kind of football that Maresca wants to play.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea have a very, very good team. I think they need to pattern out in a few other areas. Moises Caicedo has had a brilliant start to the season. And it's, a lot of eyes are going to be on. Of course, for other reasons. Definitely for other reasons. But in regards to the way he's performing right now, it's his 3rd season, and he's no excuse, really. And I think a lot of people are going to keep an eye out for that, whether he's able to, rediscover his form from Benfica and the World Cup all those years ago or not. And I think, and lastly, before we move away from Chelsea, I think a player that it's an absolute must that we talk about, Reece James. Is it time to have the serious conversations about Reece James? You look at these persisting injury issues. Is it a concern now? Seeing that and even when he's been fit, he doesn't even look anywhere near the same player as he was. He's lost the pace and agility as he's still a very good footballer, but he's definitely lost a bit of what he once has. Is this getting to the point now where thought of or taken or the uncomfortable conversations, need to be had, or do you think that it's a bit over the top? What do you guys think? Yeah,
I think it's definitely about time to have that conversation. I think that I think when you're injured for so long, it can be, like I said before, pretty difficult to then get back into the same groove, and be the same player that you were before you got a long-term injury. So I think that's probably part of that. But he definitely has some serious injury concerns that keep reoccurring, similar to Luke Shaw. I think that definitely need to be addressed.
100%. Moving away from Chelsea, looking at Crystal Palace, awful start to the season. Scores and ratings for Oliver Glasner and stand-up players on a negative and positive side of things. Post one it to either of you.
Yeah, it's not looked so good for Crystal Palace. I don't know. I'm struggling to think of
I'll take it from here. I think with Palace, I think they're still suffering the loss of Olise, which is a huge loss to them, and one of the best centre backs in Anderson. Very good, not only a good defender, good footballer as well. Big fan of Joachim Anderson. Went back to Fulham, and I think you can tell what are Oliver Glasner signings, and what are the Dougie Freeman signings. The Glasner signings, he brought in the likes of Kamada from his time at Frankfurt, free agent. Lacroix, center back from Wolfsburg, also played under Glasner. Very good player. I rate him very highly. And you look at the likes of the players that Dougie Freeman's brought in. He wanted Ismail Yassar for years, brought him in as a sort of like right winger to replace Elise, even though both of them are nowhere near the same kind of profile of player. They brought in Nketiah, and with that, Glasner has gone from the two inverted 10s to Eze as the number 10 behind, a 2 up front in Nketiah, who was nowhere near good enough for Arsenal, and I'm not sure if he's going to be good enough enough. And Mateta, who just looks absolutely knackered. And I think, they're definitely real concerns to be have. Of course, it's only 5 games in. I think they can find their form, but it's definitely something to be concerned about with Oliver Glasner and Crystal Palace. And of course, one thing I will say before we move into Everton, shout out to, of course, Eagle Eye Football. My guy Rich, big up himself every single time in his post match reaction to the Man United game. Actually, gave us a shout. So yeah, always got a big up Rich every single time for this match reaction. Moving away from Crystal Palace.
Big up Dave. This is a quick post-match reaction to the 0-0 draw at home to Manchester United. Now, for 44 minutes, we were not even anywhere close to being in this game. We were terrible. Just have to be honest with it. We were terrible. But then I don't want to take credit away from Man United, who had a game plan and operated it well. They were brilliant, got by our midfield very easy, and the only thing that obviously let them down was their finishing. Granted that Henderson made some great saves from Garnacho early, and De Ligt from a corner, but then Garnacho hit the crossbar later on, and then Bruno hit the crossbar from that same attack, from the rebound. So they had their chances. It could easily have been 4-0 at half-time. We had to make changes. I mean, before that, obviously, the last minute of the first half was the only bit of attack we had. Eddie had his first touch of the game pretty much, and he drove forward, and it built up to, he put a pass through to Mitchell. Mitchell cut it back to Ebbs, and Ebbs was a tame shot. I think he even had time to take a touch and then have his shot. Second half, a bit of changes, took off Mateta and took off Wharton, and we looked a bit more balanced. Sarr came on. I think Sarr did well. Lama did okay when he came on, but Sarr was brilliant. And I think the turning point regarding momentum swing was when Xerxes and Ericsson came off, and then all of a sudden we seemed to have a bit more control, and then built up another great chance with Ebbs, and he's just taken the wrong decision. He's tried to go to the side that he was on, where the ball got cut back. If you're going across his body, I think he scores. So it's just disappointing that obviously we haven't capitalised on our chances. So Onana made a great double save after Nketiah shot, and Sarr on the rebound. I think he should have scored. Whether or not he was offside is another matter as well. And Then Martinez, was he lucky to stay on the field? That's another factor. But yeah, look, we come away with a point. We'll take it and run, because honestly, after the first 44 minutes, we should have been 4-0 down. But yeah, look, we've got to try and find our first wins from somewhere. I know United fans will definitely be disappointed and upset. Yeah, but I do think the substitutions did help us into the second half. But yeah, once again, big up Dave. Hope you have a great one, whatever your reaction may be. And listen, up the Palace. Eagles.
Into Everton. A lot of things going on with Everton right now, apart from their dreadful start to the season, even worse than Crystal Palace's. Scores and ratings for Sean Dyche and Santa players on a negative and positive side of things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with how things have been going, I think probably natural to start even talking about Dyche getting the sack this season, especially when you have David Moyes still available, right? Everton legend. Could happen.
Yep. No, it's a very fair point. New ownership as well, and I bring this up because, you look at the Ineos and Ten Hag thing. I see this as a similar situation where the new ownership, the Friedkin ownership group, they have purchased a longtime owner Farhan Moshiri's 94.1 stake in the club, and they're the new dominant owners of Everton. And I don't know what they're going to. But I think, similarly to what Ten Hag was after Ineos have come in, I think, it'll be a bit similar where, he'll be on auditioning or on trial a little bit, unless if it gets so drastically worse that they just say, just get rid of him. We're going to bring our own guy now. But I think it will be interesting to see what happens. If anything changes tactically in regards to just trying to save his own job. I think some of the player recruitment has been very interesting in the summer. You look at the likes of Ilham Ndiaye, very good footballer. I rate this player very, very highly. And every time I see him play, he's either trying to create things all by himself or he's scoring goals just basically on his own, from his own pure footballing ability. So I rate that player very highly. Jared Branthwaite. Jared Branthwaite. He's out injured. But how do you think he leaves? Early prediction. Do you think he leaves at the end of the season? Do you think he goes?
If they go down, definitely. If they don't, probably still, yeah.
And the one thing that I'm going to talk about Everton before we move into the next side. And honestly, I'd say they're more Spursy, more Tottenham than Tottenham right now. Even though Tottenham are just deep. You look at Everton right now, and they're matching the Spursy, sort of characteristics more than Tottenham are. They keep constantly giving the 2-0 leads, and I do feel a bit sorry for Jordan Pickford with all due respect to these players. He's trying to keep shots out of the back of the net when you have the likes of Tarkovsky, a 39-year-old Ashley Young, and Michael Keane and Seamus Coleman. It's probably not going to be the easiest task, is it? So I don't know why they just keep constantly capitulating, but I think, that's a pattern to look out for the future. Next, for a very shining light, and for go on.
That's last question. I don't know much about the new owners, the Friedkin Group. Do they own other clubs? Like, is there any models we can go off of?
I think they either had sold it or they might be still owning a part of Roma.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
Because I think they're the one. Because they were the ones that sacked Daniel De Rossi. That's what the Fabrizio Romano headline was. So
this isn't looking too good for Everton. Then I'm not a fan of the Roma owners. First of all, for sacking Jose, and then for sacking De Rossi as well after 4 games this season.
No, of course. But the one thing that I will say is that in regards to Moshiri, his reign over the club was a very, very, very, very big problem for a long time.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was anything as bad as I wouldn't say it's I'd say similar to what the Glazers was. In regards to the same kind of problems, a lack of intelligent recruitment in many areas. And is a new ownership, so I think to a certain extent, like I've said with Ineos many times, until you give me something for me to really raise an eyebrow to, and to really, disagree with, you can't really crucify them, just yet. But, we'll wait and see. We'll see what happens. And I think that's what, Everton supporters and the neutral and the public's going to have to do for now. Now, moving into a shining light, and for me, my winners of this summer's transfer window, as said in an article from yours truly. Shout out Tech Takes as well. Fulham Football Club. Wow. And you look at their start of the season, only one loss, which to be real, they're very unlucky to lose in the opening match against Man United, to be honest with you. But you look at, the rest of the games, winning convincingly, not just convincingly against Newcastle as well. Pretty relatively full strength Newcastle. West Ham, look at the players that they have. Tough team to play, drawing very, very, very unlucky to draw that. But you look at Fulham, right? Scores and meetings from Marco Silva and stand-up players on a negative and positive side of things.
Yeah, they've looked great. Really fun to watch as usual. I really respect the way they play. I like Marco Silva a lot. I've been a fan of this Fulham team for a while, and I'm glad they've started really strong this season. I definitely would point out ESR immediately. He's been fantastic. He's
hit the ground running, and in that number 10 role.
Yeah, I really rate him. I really rate Emil Smith-Rowe. So I'm glad he's playing very well.
Footballer.
I really hope he stays fit for them. Otherwise, he's got Raul Jimenez scoring goals again. He's got
displaced Muniz.
Adama Traore as well.
We're seeing the link up, the old Wolves link up all over again. Yeah. I think it was last week in that Newcastle and Adama Traore cross and a Raul Jimenez goal. And I was thinking to myself, what year are we in, lads? Is this 2019 or 2020 or are we in 2024?
Adama was making me want to oil up before the match.
Pause. Oh dear. I think a player that I've been just kind of a bit perplexed. Sanderberg, they brought him in, but Marco Silva, not that that it needs to be done, but I think at a certain point you need to phase, your £30 million signing in. He's a very, very, very good player. Sanderberg. I know he likes that pivot of Lukic and preseason imperial Andreas Pereira, who's been balling out at Fulham, so fair play to him. Brought back Joachim Anderson for £30 million, so they've done well. Anthony Robinson as well. I think he's on his way out. If on the Man United management, please go bring him in. Go bring Anthony Robinson in, please. Very, very good fullback. That's who I would want to replace Luke Shaw. Go get Anthony Robinson. Very, very good player. But taking a look at this Fulham side, I mean, they just really have blown everyone away. The expectations, you look at the play on paper, their teams, it's okay. That's not great, but they've been playing well. And which is why I said, and what you've been saying about Marco Silva, when you have a manager with a cohesive system, with a very good system in play, when you're trying to get the best out of the players that he's got, playing players in the right positions, not leading players to die or exposing them constantly all the time. Doesn't matter what level of players that you've got, you can make something. Unless if you're literally Sheffield United, which is just an impossible job to a certain extent. But even then again, Chris Wadd's done it in 2020 and they almost got Europa League. So even though it's a freaker anyways. But to get back to Fulham, I think this is just a shining example of what a competent manager with a good philosophy and an actual plan can do for you. When you look at the likes of Fulham and you look at the investments brought in as well, you can't say that they're not the winners of this transfer window. They absolutely are. Last thing on Fulham before we move into Ipswich, do you think this is just a purple patch at the moment, or do you think this could actually be something they have serious potential to do something this season?
I think they could challenge for a Conference League spot, definitely. I don't know if they'll make it exactly, but I think that they have a great chance of finishing in the top half of the table this season, which would be a slight improvement on their average mid-table finishes in the past few seasons.
No, that's fair. Next, into Ipswich, and I know, and when you look at Ipswich, they have probably the biggest ask of anyone to stay alive. And I think we all said that they would be in the bottom three. And I know it's only 5 games. So, but when I look at Ipswich right now, and they haven't had the easiest start to the season. They played Liverpool, they played Man City, played Fulham, played Brighton, all difficult sides to play. And yeah, they drew Southampton. They got away with against Southampton. They were able to get a point, which they really should have won. That's not an easy start to the season. And I'll take this one. I think if you're Kieran McKenna, for the most part, I think you have to, keep your head held high, genuinely. Given the players that he's got, the likes of Liam Delap, he is a big ask. For him, Sammy Smodic as well. The Republic of Ireland international, decent player, scored against Man City. And when you also, for me, when you look at Calvin Phillips, he's just spawned out of nowhere. Let's see what happens in this side. But I think a player to really look out for is Leif Davis. And yes, the English left back was incredible in the championship last year. Doesn't have as many assists as he has this year, but he's still performing very, very well. Very good football. I think that's a player to look out for the future. But with this decently promising start, do you think this is just a purple patch, or do you think this is something that maybe they can build off of? What do you guys think?
I don't know if I've seen enough to say they can build off of it, but I'm going to give Kieran McKenna some credit, definitely, because they're not in the relegation zone after the first few matches. I mean, there are 3 teams that have done pretty significantly worse than they have so far. And Ipswich have had a tough start. They've already played Liverpool and Man City once. They played Brighton as well. So I think it'll only get easier from this point for Ipswich.
Oh, it's very fair. And I think that, if they provide some more backing maybe in January, maybe they could stay up. I think from the neutrals, I would love to see Ipswich stay up. I would love to see it for the culture. Really would. Next, Leicester City, and even then, as bleak as it's looking right now, I mean, when on paper the start's not too bad, but definitely underwhelming. Looking at how they've done it, scores of innings for Steve Cooper and stand-up players both on a negative and positive side of things. Those one out to either you lot.
I mean, I could point out Steffi Mavididi. I think he's looked pretty good, scored a few goals so far this season, but not too good of a start. But then again, they've also played some tough teams, Tottenham, Aston Villa, and they haven't lost all their games. So, I mean, they're kind of in a similar position to Ipswich. It was always going to be a tough ask for them this season, but they haven't started completely terribly, but they definitely need to improve still.
No, I agree, but I think when you look at Leicester, I mean, this is a team that has so much Premier League experience, and when you look at the player pools, just on paper, I mean, naturally, when you look at the squads on paper, you're probably going to take Leicester's squad over Ipswich's. However, in regards to some of the recruitment, I think it's been somewhat questionable. I think bringing in Buonanotte on loan, he's a very good player. I think that's, I think there's an option about, I'm not sure, but good player to have. Signing Oliver Skip for £25 million, I think that's a big questionable. Especially, Dewsbury Hall left, but Dewsbury Hall and Oliver Skip are absolutely not the same profile of player and midfielder. They're absolutely not. When you had Winks, who had a very good season last year, he's getting rotated in and out of the side now, and still have Wilfred Ndidi, whether you like it or not, player with experience, definitely Premier League quality. And looking at Steve Cooper, how long do you think Steve Cooper will be getting? Do you think in the back of the ownership's mind that the clock the clock is already starting to tick down for Steve Cooper? What do you guys think?
I mean, I don't think the clock is ticking yet. I think it's going to take a few more periods of this before anything really starts to happen with that.
That's fair enough. And my last question: Jamie Vardy's just Jamie Vardy. Like he's just inevitable, unreliable. However, do you think there's an over-reliance on Jamie Vardy?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, you can't. I mean, he's not Ronaldo. You can't rely on a 37-year-old striker in this day and age in the Premier League. I think it's got to be. You've got to have more options than Jamie Vardy at this point.
No, I couldn't agree more. Really, I think that's whether you like Edouard or not, whether you like Jordan Ayew or not, they've just brought in some other options. Whether they're whether one actually rates them or not, they've just brought in another player in that position in that pool. I don't know what's happened to Patson Daka, if he's gone, if he's on loan, or if he's sold the club, or if he's injured. I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see. I think the biggest issue with them, before we move to the next side, I think the spine of their team is just so either inconsistent or so unreliable, right? Having Wout Faes at center back in 2024, yeah, he's not the oldest, but yeah, having him at center back, and I think this last season or a couple seasons ago, it was Wout Faes and Bednarek or Harry Sutar at center back. Yeah, if that's your center back starting partnership for a season, it's going to be a long season. It's going to be
kind
long.
of surprising. I mean, they used to have such great center backs. Like, I mean, obviously Maguire didn't pan out to be the player we thought he was, but he was a great player at Leicester City, and same for Kaliar Sayuncu, also a great center back. So I don't know. They've really dropped off with their center back talent.
And you want to know who else done very well at Leicester as well, who played alongside Sayuncu in that 1920 Leicester side?
Ooh,
Johnny Evans into Liverpool.
class, absolute class.
I love Johnny Evans, man. Into Liverpool. First 5 games in that they've had under a new manager for gosh knows how long. Arne Schlottball. They've only lost 1 game to Forest. They've won every other game. With the standout being the 3-0 win against Manchester United at Old Trafford, you'd have to say. Scores and ratings for Arne Slot and stand-up players on the negative and positive side of things.
I guess you could just say. I feel like it's the same things we said before, where it's like just this Arne Slot has brought just he's just sort of revived a lot of the talent that's already at Liverpool. Obviously, with I keep raving about Szoboszlai and the playing in the 10. Salah looks a different player. Although what's been your I was with you the other day, Davis, and we were watching Liverpool, and you wouldn't stop saying that nickname you have for Salah over and over, and maybe 20 times I'd say you said it in about 30 minutes. What was it?
But to be fair, I have a lot of nicknames for a lot of players. So to be fair, I generally can't remember.
You know the one.
No, I generally have a lot of nicknames for players that I just don't rate, which I can't say on camera. Refocusing a bit, right? And I think when you were saying and talking about specifically about players that he survived, I think one name comes to mind. The most obvious name, Ryan Gravenberch.
Surely.
Yeah.
Thoughts on his survival? They were in for Zubimendi, didn't get him, and they didn't sign anyone. And it seems like their plan B really just was to just trust Gravenberch in that position. And again, you look at under Klopp, seemed a bit underwhelming in that sort of, in the 4-3-3, in that rock and roll football. But under Slot, a little bit more harmonious in his style of football, a little bit more possession based, and you look at the system and how and where and how Gravenberch has been deployed. He's absolutely flourished. Flourished. He was brilliant in preseason, and he was a player that I said to watch to see if he carries it over, and he absolutely has so far. And Liverpool fans, will be very, very happy with him as well.
I really think this managerial appointment has just fit like a glove. I really don't think they could have done better than this guy. If they got Ancelotti, Pep, I don't care. I really think Slot is the man. I don't know if I've said it on camera before, but I do think that. With all respect to Jurgen Klopp, I think he's going to leave with more success than Jurgen Klopp. I really think that. I think that's tactical,
a crazy take.
Call me on it because I'm saying it now, and I think that.
Well, clip it. If you're right, you're right. Yeah. I'll have to hold that later. All my hands on.
I just think the tactical changes he's made has just, again, it's just fit the team like a glove, and yeah, who knows with some even more signings coming. I don't know. I'm excited for this Liverpool team, and I think it's honestly threatened. Confidence in my own project. I think I have a new top 4 since our season opener already. So, I really think Liverpool are one to watch this season.
Here's the thing with Slot, right? I don't think because they've only brought in one player, and there's only been one really big in regards to team selection, right? It's not like he's even made a whole lot of changes in the team selection because yeah, they made no signings, but if he had made a lot of changes to the actual team selection, one could definitely raise an eyebrow. However, there hasn't been that much, change apart from Gravenberch, really. And maybe I think we all thought Quansah was going to play, but he's been dropped. And Konate's been playing alongside Van Dijk, which has been a bit to my surprise because of, I'm thinking, the kind of footballer that Quansah is more, the kind of center back that he is in a possession-based system would suit Slot more. But Konate, he's happy with Konate, so he's been persisting with him, really. There hasn't been, a whole lot of changes. And I think a lot of these players, are still, are definitely still used to that, you're going to call chaotic football. And I think, Slot is going, I think after the leaders that go, like the Allisons and the Van Dijks and I think Trent probably he might go, he might stay. Salah, I think he will definitely go. I think after, those major figures goes, I think Slot will definitely have, more of a definitely more of a will have more I wouldn't say influence, but will have more ability to play to the style that he traditionally plays in.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Because when you look at Salah, Mo Salah isn't someone that strikes you as someone who's very good in a possession-based system. To get the best out of Salah, you play that transitional gegenpress kind of football. That's how you get the best out of Mo Salah. You wouldn't say his biggest strength is his ability as a footballer on the ball, making things happen, creating chances and all that. You'd say his finishing, cutting inside, ruthless finishing, his pace on the break. The likes of Luis Diaz, who had things done, who's shown more in this system in particular. But I think it will take some time, and I think, with the way that they're going, Arne Slot could very well be a success at Liverpool. I think, he will be. Last thing I wanted to talk about with Liverpool was what I mentioned earlier. Just an early prediction. Do you think Trent signs a new deal, or does he leave?
I think he signs a new deal.
Andre, what about you?
It's a tough one. I'll go maybe he signs a new deal, but I don't think it'll be a very long one. I think maybe... How old is Trent now?
He's
anyway?
25, 26. So he's approaching or now in his prime.
I think I'm him...
My logic is just the only club I can see going for him at the moment is Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And I don't think Real Madrid are going to go for him next year. So.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Next, Manchester City, and there are a lot of things to talk about, apart from the court cases with Man City going on recently. Before we really get into the discussion points, just scores and ratings for Pep Guardiola and standout players in this run of games, on negative and positive sides.
Yeah, I think they've been dealing pretty well with the fact that a lot of their major players have been either injured or just having a bit of a slow start because of how many games they played last season. In terms of like Phil Foden, I think he's suffered from that. I think he's just been a bit slow to get back into the groove. He definitely hasn't hit his groove yet. Again, but he played so many games last year, so I mean it's understandable. Same for Rodri. Rodri was a bit slow to get back into it, and now he's injured, so that's a big problem. De Bruyne is injured as well. So they've been dealing, I think, pretty well with a lot of major injuries. And obviously Haaland's just been on fire so far this season.
He absolutely terrifies me.
And I also would want to point out Savinho, who I think has looked really good, and I think Pep
immediately brilliant footballer.
Really is trusted.
Quality player.
He's been fantastic so far.
He's an absolutely brilliant footballer, and I think he offers something totally different than what the current wide options that Man City offer. Of course, he offers you that pace and directness, but his ability on the ball is,
I think he reminds me a lot of Mahrez. I think a little quicker,
definitely
quicker version of Mahrez, I would say.
No, definitely gives that Riyad Mahrez vibes. But I think there are three players that we didn't mention that I want to highlight. I think İlkay Gündoğan's return to Manchester City is hugely significant, not in regards to just the whole midfield thing. The guy's mentality, the guy's ability as a footballer, the guy's ability to perform in the big games, his ability to create clutch moments. I think, I feel like I feel, not that I want to happen. I still feel somewhat confident that Manchester City, even with Rodri's season-ending injury, which is catastrophic regardless, because there's no defensive midfielder in the world that's better than Rodri. End of. And I can say that comfortably, very, very comfortably. But I think even without Rodri right now, I think Ilkay Gundogan's now going to have an even bigger role and part to play. They literally got him for nothing, for free. Barcelona just literally handed him back to Man City for free, nothing whatsoever. And I think that is going to be a huge game changer, and that is and has been a big game changer.
Yeah, I think just to add on that really quick, I think if you told me before the season that Rodri was going to be out injured the entire season, and they were going to go into the season without Gundogan, I would be seriously hesitant to tell you that Man City were going to win the league. I think that bringing Gundogan back in now just secures that again for them, because I think that he's just that guy. Like he can come up with a brilliant moment at a brilliant time. He has so much experience, so much class. He's a great player.
Absolutely, and a few players I wanted to briefly talk about with Manchester City. On the positive side of things, Mateo Kovacic and Rico Lewis, both of these two players
They've both
stepped
been
up.
brilliant, and I would say Kovacic has been playing slightly out of position. I think a lot of the season so far he's been used as
And he's been performing in that
as
position.
the Rodri
He's
replacement.
not, he's not that kind of player.
No,
But
he's
again,
not. But that's just how he's being used right now. And Rico Lewis, I mean, he's the perfect Pep fullback. I think he's so good at coming inside. Great dribbler, great
Pause.
defensive capabilities. Can go forward. I mean, he's fantastic.
No, and we're saying that's not Kovacic's position, but like I've highlighted before, keep relaying back to this. Why is Kovacic able to perform? Why is Rico Lewis able to even play right back to invert into midfield, and he's still performing? Not only just because Rico Lewis is a great player, but you look at Kovacic. His last season at Chelsea, and 2 years later, after not really playing that much, every game that he's played, he's looked very, very good. Why? Look at the system. And yeah, it is Pep Guardiola at the end of the day. But again, having a competent system, and where a player is placed and how they're utilized and deployed in a system, and who you put around them, can at times, definitely be a big impact. It definitely can be, and especially with Kovacic, who's not naturally an out-and-out number 6. He's able to perform, and he's flourishing in that position. And the last one I want to talk about, Kyle Walker, and looking at that Arsenal game, right? Do you think now, especially with that game, Gondon, and how much Rico Lewis has played, do you think Pep already has in the back of his mind it's time to phase out Kyle Walker?
I don't know if Pep does, but I think it's been very obvious. It's been very obvious to me that.
Don't get me started on the Euros as well, because that's like the most prime example. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah, but even to me last season, it was fairly obvious that Kyle Walker at top level is pretty close to being finished. I think that he's
and the Pep system
been
is
fantastic for so many years, but it's just you get it. He's getting old, and he's doesn't look like he's got the legs for it anymore. I mean, he used to be one of the quickest in the league.
He's losing the athleticism now.
Yeah, toe to toe with any of the wingers, any of the best wingers in the league. But I mean, you get old.
No, and that's fair. But I think as an actual defender with his defensive capabilities, I think it's good. Nothing out of this world. But I think his athletic abilities, and it's just for a long time was an absolute freak of nature, and now he's losing that. And I think especially now, even the Pep system is not been able to mask over his deficiencies, which it definitely did last season and has for a little while now. So I think actually season Kyle Walker is really going to be phased out. Really,
I think he will be phased out, but he's definitely still a huge presence in their locker room, and I think with the things that
100%.
Yeah, the things that they're challenging for, I think if he's being phased out on the pitch, certainly still in the club, I think he's important.
No, 100%.
But before we do move on, I just wanted to last thing on Manchester City. What do you make of the Haaland Gabriel incident? Do you think refs step in on something like that, or because I don't know, I kind of don't care.
I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and not just because I can't stand Arsenal and their supporters. Everyone knows how much I can't stand them. Not really, but at the end of the day, especially and nowadays, really, growing up watching, football, for as long as I have, you grew up watching just genuinely so many bastards. I mean, you think about,
Yeah.
the likes of Pepe, Sergio Ramos, just to name a few. And I mean, even the best players in the world, Ronaldo, bastard, Lionel Messi, was nasty at times. Like, personalities in football, and you need players that also kind of have an edge about them. You need those kinds of players, and even just when as Haaland was just doing that, I found it entertaining, but I found it very, very interesting, really, because I've also never seen Haaland in that kind of way, kind of move like that, which is definitely very interesting. And
Yeah, I saw a video about Haaland becoming the villain this season. He was like talking to Gabriel Jesus after the game, like, "Why you talking, bro? Why you talking?" Yeah, but no, I think that should never be punished because I mean something like
no,
that is
it shouldn't be.
completely harmless. Like those people header the ball for fun.
Yeah.
Like if you do that,
I mean,
you're full of adrenaline after a last minute goal. Your mind takes over. It doesn't affect anyone negatively. It's totally fine.
and he's
Things
also,
like
it's
that
like,
are
I think they know it's shithousery, and it's also like, he's not launched the ball at him. He's kind of just tossed it at his head. Like, it's like he hasn't got like, it's not,
Shithousery's part of
If you-
football.
it's not,
If he was like punting the ball at him,
Yeah.
then maybe there'd be an issue.
Then okay, yeah.
yeah,
You just threw it at his head.
just kind of,
I mean, I found it
just kinda tossed
absolutely. I found it absolutely hilarious, and
I liked it.
And I was watching the game with a couple of my mates of mine who are also fans. Again, absolutely insufferable. And honestly, those who are watching this now, you could probably imagine what my reaction was to that equalizer. And as much as I despise Man City as well, but it's Arsenal's fan base, which just makes me dislike them more, genuinely. So that equalizer went in. They had all of it, really. Moving away from Man City, Manchester United. Man United and Eric Ten Hag, scores and ratings for Eric Ten Hag and Senna players, both on a negative and positive side of things. Jose, what are we saying for us these first 5 games?
Yeah, started pretty poorly with the Brighton and Liverpool losses. The Fulham win, I mean, we didn't play terribly in the Fulham game. We probably didn't deserve to win on the day. It was a good first goal by Xerxes in that game. And then the Brighton and Liverpool losses, I was just like, oh, Ten Hag is going to lose me fast if he keeps doing what he's doing. And he did.
You even said after Liverpool, and
Yeah, I
even said
did.
yourself you couldn't defend it.
He did.
That game.
He did change it up. He stopped playing Mount and Bruno together. He started playing. Obviously, we signed Ugarte. Ugarte's come into the side now. Just today, I think he played his first full game for us. Crystal Palace looked. I thought we were the better side against Crystal Palace, but I also think we didn't do enough in terms of chance creation to deserve to win that game. Southampton win I thought was good, despite Rashford's goal being a little bit fluky. I think it was good. I mean, Rashford, honestly, I don't know if you saw Rashford today, Davis, but Rashford looked his old self today. I mean, he didn't even score or assist, but he was just like nutmegging players for fun. It was hilarious.
And of course, you can only play against who's literally in front of you. With all due respect to Twente, you're on 350 grand a week, and I'm expecting my 350 grand a week left winger to be making the FC Twente's right backs life for 90 minutes a living hell. I'm going to be expecting that of you, but fair enough. And yes, Rashford played well against Swansea. Yeah, it was only against Barnsley, but guess what? You got his goals and all that. I mean, you in front of you. So just looking at it from both sides. And before I give my opinions, I'll just throw some of these some of the discussion points. Of course, at the end of the day, I'll have to say, Jose won on this one. All my hands up. I genuinely thought Ten Hag was not going to outlast Sancho, but and I thought that they were actually going to coexist. Seeing he's brought back in preseason, so and then to see him moved on, especially to Chelsea, was definitely really, really in a way surprised, but not too surprised seeing how this manager is. Sancho gone, Ten Hag too. However, do you think it was a mistake just letting Sancho go and not bringing in whether it's a similar profile of player to Sancho or just someone to play, in the attacking position? So you think it was a mistake not to,
I mean, I would have preferred Sancho to be integrated into the team. I think he's a better right winger, not left winger, right winger. than Ahmad and Garnacho and Anthony. So I think that I would rather have him had been integrated, but obviously Ten Hag decided to get him out and wasn't going to use him. So fair enough.
And before, yeah, I'll give my opinions on it. I mean, at the end of the day, right, you know, everyone knows how much I like this player, and for him to go to Chelsea and to seeing him, you know, perform the way he has, and
I mean,
you know,
he's got 2 assists, so you can relax, but yeah.
But at the end of the day, right, it's not just necessarily, and I've said, and I'll keep saying it's not just G&A. It's also what you do on the ball, off the ball, how it affects the teammates around you, the space, the spaces, the amount of chances, and all that. For me, you look at him in this Maresca system. When you actually keep an eye on Jadon Sancho, you're still looking at a brilliant player. Why he's shining under a manager who has a clear system and a good and a way of playing that suits Jadon Sancho. The reason why Sancho was never going to play on the left-hand side was because that was always Rashford's position. And no one can tell me on this planet Earth, and I don't care who it is, and I will have this debate, whoever wants it. Jadon Sancho is a better footballer. End of conversation. I don't care. Regardless of what anyone wants to say. I know I'm the host, I'm supposed to be neutral, but Sancho is a far better footballer than Marcus Rashford is. End of. It's not just G&A. You look at their abilities as a footballer.
That's questionable.
Absolutely not. But anyways, into the next point I wanted to throw out, he's got his back. He's been backed heavily this summer. Given Lenny Yoro, who's going to go to Real Madrid, but we somehow pulled that one out. People would say too much money, but the kind of play, how good he is and his trajectory, we've signed one of the best young defenders in world football. 60 million pounds to secure both De Ligt and Mazraoui. The financials and the actual, transactions of the deal, very, very intelligent business to cover both positions with 2 good players. And of course, guess what? It fits Ten Hag's criteria as well, XIX. Who else did we bring up? Ugarte. Plays just a kind of just chaotic sort of central midfielder. People saying he's a Casemiro replacement. They're not the same. They're not the same profile of player. Different profile of player. Just to clarify that one to everyone, but use brought in as well. When you look at Man United's window, they definitely, made their efforts. Xerxes as well. They definitely have brought in players to reinforce in positions that need to be reinforced, but I still think more needed to be done. At the end of the day, I think we needed someone like Sander Berg to come in as a first phase player, because we needed a midfielder who's good in the first phase. People who are saying that Ugarte is going to fix the problem, he's not. He's not going to fix the problem, because we struggle to control games on the ball and in possession and in the midfield. Someone like Sander Berg, who that's the kind of profile of player that he is and what he specializes in, would have been really, really nice to have him. But for whatever reason, we didn't want to accept bids from of around 25, 30 million from Fulham, and that money could have been, some it could have been used for Sander Berg. But it's his 3rd season now for Ten Hag, and I know I asked you about this off camera at times. What are not only your expectations of Ten Hag, but how long does he have for you if things start to get bad? Which, I mean, they already are. Let's be real. How long do you give Ten Hag? When will be sort of like the breaking point? And not just for you, because I know you believe in Ten Hag, but for also a good amount of the fan base as well.
I mean, if it's bad, like we're not in the top half of the league by like Christmas, then he can go. But if we're anywhere above, I'd say 8th around Christmas, I would keep him for the rest of the season.
Fair enough. And the last thing I will say about Man United, and I can get into specifics, and keep your eyes open. Man United Tottenham preview is going to be on Friday, so the Man United section won't be too specific. So keep your eyes open for the preview. Will happen on Friday. We'll be out on a Friday afternoon, so keep your eyes open for that. But I think these next couple games for Ten Hag, these next 2 games, Tottenham and Villa, could definitely be significant in his future. Newcastle. Now, looking at Newcastle. Scores and ratings for Eddie Howe, standout players on a negative and positive side of things. Any one of you.
I mean, they started really well. A lot of wins. It looks very good. Looked Newcastle of, I'd say, 2 seasons ago, and they finished in the top 4. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would say. Maybe point out Guimaraes looked really good. Harvey Barnes, I think, is looking good. Fabian Schär. Yeah, that's what I would say.
I think the 2-1. I don't know if I somehow I didn't hear that or didn't recall or even hear, but or maybe it's just so obvious at this point, doesn't need to be said. Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak, those two are just even if they're going a bit of a rough patch, I think to a certain extent they're over relied upon, and of course unless you're Man City, you're not going to have 6 available Isak quality and Anthony Gordon level attackers in your football club. It's just not going to happen. But I think Newcastle need to strengthen in that area. I think Sandro Tonali's return is going to be very important for them.
Yeah, definitely.
And Andre, to throw this out to you, the whole Kieran Trippier saga. He was going to leave. He wanted to go. I think he went on strike, and then the window shut, and now he's just been given the armband, and he's back, and he's playing again. Find that sort of interesting. What did you make of it?
Didn't know he'd been given the armband too, and he was playing. Wow. Look, I mean, yeah, I know he wanted to leave, but at the end of the day, I think Eddie Howe knows that Trippier is still a professional. He's still going to do his job. But it does feel with some of the leaders that are at Newcastle, it is interesting that he's still got the armband. That does feel a little bit weird. I guess it just shows Eddie Howe's faith in him.
There's one thing that I do want to mention, and I just saw Newcastle. I remember what you were saying about Brentford with the same players have been there for so long. I think Newcastle's one of the shining examples of that. And with all due respect, Paul Dummett and Emil Kraft are their third choice centre backs. And I think with that in mind, I think that's, I think, they're in, they need a huge makeover. They need a makeover. I'd probably say more than Brentford, especially when you look at Newcastle and the expectations that we now have of them.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily agree. I think maybe their defense needs some new signings. But if you look at their attack, you got Anthony Gordon and Isak up front. You got a solid midfield trio of Joelinton, Guimaraes, and Tonali.
Not the starting 11, really. When you look at at
the back, you have Sven Botman, you have Fabian Schär, who I definitely rate. You got Dan Burn, who's obviously one of the best in the league.
He's actually performing, so that's a bit of a difference.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I think depth is going to be strengthening depth is going to be a huge issue for any club outside of even the top 4. I'd say top 5. Like it's even Tottenham still clearly struggle with it. So I think Newcastle, with the spending ability that they do have, yes, I think strengthening depth will come over time. But yeah, I agree with Joe in that in the further 2/3 of the pitch. I mean, those are all. It still feels like new signings to me. The way they're gelling together. But what I was going to ask though, I didn't watch the game. What went wrong for Newcastle against Fulham? Like, I'm trying to identify Newcastle's particular weaknesses. Like, what went wrong? Did you watch the game, Davis?
No? Not super closely. I did watch it back, but like I was saying with Isak and Gordon, they're starting to be a little more quiet now, and I think teams are kind of figuring it out. If you shut those two down, as good as Harvey Barnes can be at times, he's not going to be he's not Anthony Gordon, he's not Alexander Isak, and I think Newcastle are now are looking for goals from elsewhere if it's not from those two, and I think if those two aren't scoring goals, maybe they'll all go from Joe Willock or Guimaraes or something like that. But I think or Fabian Schär scoring the screamer from time to time. But I think goals away. I'm not saying you need to have Holland on the bench, but it's going to be kind of a struggle for Newcastle. It's definitely something. Left back is probably not the best thing to do when he was very good for Bournemouth at centre back. Playing Lewis Hall at left back might be a good idea, possibly, instead of a centre back. Just an idea. Let's keep it moving. Nottingham Forest. This is actually a really interesting one.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the Nuno Nottingham resurrection at Forest. Who would have seen that? Thoughts on Nottingham Forest scores meetings for Nuno, Espirito Santo, send up players on the positive negative side of things. Jose, I'll throw this one to you.
Yeah, they got some really impressive results. The Liverpool result obviously stands out. Definitely, you have to point out both Elanga and Hudson-Odoi for their performance in that game, particularly. Hudson-Odoi scoring a goal that will win you a tough match like that. So you gotta definitely give them a lot of credit for that. Otherwise, Gibbs White, definitely agree with him taking the armband. I think he's probably their most important player. Definitely, I think he comes up with big goals like he did against, I want to say, Southampton.
Yep, he scored against Southampton.
Yeah, he
And,
comes up with
he
big goals.
performs as well.
Yeah, he's a great player, great physical player, great dribbler, great passing range, all around great midfielder. I'm a really big fan of him.
No, absolutely. And I've been talking this guy's praises for seasons now, and I absolutely agree with you. I think sometimes when you give your best player ability wise the armband, they can kind of drown, they think too full of themselves. But Gibbs has these leadership qualities about him, and I think especially having played in the England under 21s and being a part of that leadership group for so long definitely does help. Even if it is just the under 21s, not senior levels for the Euros and all that, but he was one of the captains in that sides that led England to their to winning it. So I think that always helps. Definitely on the leadership side in Wolves. Nuno definitely knows Gibbs White for a very, very long while. So if any manager would know how to get the best out of that player, it would be Nuno. And I think Nuno's done a very good job as well.
Yeah.
And with some of the recruitment, Ward-Prowse, Ferry, Shrewd signing, Anthony Elanga and Hudson-Odoi. For me, those are, they're Nottingham Forest unsung heroes. They 100% are. When you think about, they sold Brennan Johnson and brought those two, I think, for combined fee 25 million for half the price Johnson was sold at. Great business. And Murillo and Milenkovic, who signed from Fiorentina this summer. I think that's going to be one of the centre-back duos to watch. 100%. That's one to keep an eye out for. And I think that's one of the most underrated duos or centre-back partnerships in the league. That's going to be one to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention. I mean, I think Nottingham Forest have for sure been the biggest shock to me this season, and I think when you look at that Liverpool one, a huge reason is that centre back partnership of Murillo and Milenkovic. That's what I was going to mention.
I'm very sorry, but someone has arrived.
So
Look who's here. Look who's here. Look who's arrived at the tail end.
hey guys, I just got out of class.
Nice, brilliant. A big up Sears for turning up as always. Sears, I'll just throw this one to you since you literally I've just gotten here. Not just Southampton on a very there's one player in particular who has really caught my Luke Dibbling of Southampton was brilliant against Manchester United and has literally provided them with most of their goals. Looks clear and above every single player, and I think he's good enough to secure a move to a bigger club. And he's only he's only 18 years of age. 18 years of age, and I think this player, with the right environment around him, obviously Southampton have not had a very good start. I think they're just going to go back down. But how much time you give Ross Martin? I don't know. Probably not that much time. Because we know Southampton kind of works with that sort of thing. But moving into the next player or into the next side. So shout out Luke Dibbling.
Wait, Davis, isn't it Tyler Dibbling?
I thought it was Luke. I could be wrong. If I butchered the name, then that's 100% on me. Always good to have people fact checking on that one. If I got that one, I will hold my hands up for that one. But Man United's been linked with him a lot recently. Dan Ashworth apparently wants him. If we're getting rid of Anthony, definitely would like to see him brought in. Tottenham, we'll keep it relatively brief for those who haven't been, who just tuned in. Man United Tottenham preview on Friday, so keep your eyes open for that. So we'll dive more into depth. But Andre, from a very, very basic and surface level, looking at scores remaining for Ange Postecoglou and stand-up players, both on a negative and positive side of things. Just a very, very basic level.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'd give Ange like a 6 right now.
Okay.
I think our biggest, I guess the conversation within the fan base is really, if you don't know, we're basically dominating in every stat in the league when it comes to, possession, getting shots off, touches in the box. I think we're murdering shots, or getting shots off versus shots conceded. All the stats are looking good, yet somehow we're not getting over the line and we're not getting enough dangerous chances. So it's just like, this is where some of the questions are coming in regarding Ange's position, where he's maybe even losing some of the fan base. But what gives me confidence is I think he seems to have the board in the palm of his hand. There is a lot of confidence still within Tottenham Hotspur.
And to keep it relatively brief, because we do have the preview on Friday, so we can dive more into both Man United and Tottenham, both more into depth then. But who been standouts on positives and negative sides to keep it brief?
My standout's going to be Rodrigo Bentancur. Has looked pretty good since, even though he had his controversy, he's looked good. And then for me, I really don't understand any of the complaints against Brennan Johnson, because this man has, I think, looked fantastic every time I've seen him on the pitch. So and now he's shown to the haters up with the 2 goals in successive matches. So for me, he's been my standout attacker. But yeah, I'd say those 2.
Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, sorry. James Madison has also. I've got that completely wrong. He's looked like the old James Madison. He's looked very good as well.
All right. Okay. Fair. Second to last side, West Ham. Serious. I'll actually throw this one at you. Looking at their run of games, definitely disappointing. You look at their window, which I still think is one of the best in the league. What's wrong with West Ham right now? In your opinion?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about West Ham, to be honest. Looking at their window with their new signings, I think it's definitely been a struggle. I think, some of their top players haven't been performing. But to be fair to West Ham, they have had a hard schedule. They've played teams like, Chelsea's been better. They play teams like Chelsea and Man City, Aston Villa. These aren't easy teams to beat. So, I think it's been, they had a great start with their first game, the likes of Bowen, Tuchek scoring, but as of recent, it's been tougher for them. But, I also think it might be due to the schedule. I think, they have Brentford, Ipswich, Tottenham, teams that aren't very good coming up. So I feel like, it's time for them to, really step things up. But, we'll see really what happens because, on paper, they have the likes of Kudus, Souček. It's interesting that and
Paquetá as well.
Yeah, they have Paquetá. It's interesting. It's kind of interesting who they start sometimes. I thought, the likes of Somerville would be fully starting, but he still doesn't. But that's also because they have Kudus, so it's very hard. To see what's going to happen. But I think they're going to have a better run of games, and I think next episode we're going to be talking about how they've done much better.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll throw this question to you, Jose, because I know it's relatively soon. But you look at Julian Lopetegui, right? How much blame would you give Julian Lopetegui? And he has all these players at his disposal, but when you look at his team selection, one could say is David Moyes controlling it from abroad or from afar because he still plays, and I know your guy Kufal still playing.
Kufal, come on, Davis.
Kufal.
He's the best fullback in the league. You got to get it right.
No, of course. Souček so regular, Antonio so regular, despite signing. You have the likes of Fulkrug, but he should take a certain amount of blame.
I would compare it a bit to Maresca, not that they're the same, but because they both have a lot of new players to fit into their team, and Maresca's done it really, really well, and Lopetegui has not. So definitely Lopetegui has to take some credit for it, but I think that if he I think that, like Sirius said, with time, they're going to improve. They're going to get better.
No, that's fair. And Lucas Paquetá, fraud watch. There needs to be a fraud watch for Lucas Paquetá. The 90 is going to be needs to be kept on because he now has a very, very good surrounding cast of players around him. So, I think he's one to watch. And lastly, we have Wolves. And it is Lee, all this take Wolves. And I think they didn't replace Pedro Neto. They didn't replace Max Kilman, and they put Gary O'Neill in a horrible position. You have to rely on Cunha, who again, he's more of a link man. Goal scoring is not his thing. So I think already by doing that, you put him in a very, very difficult position. You could say the defense is not the best, and your strengths are probably in defensive midfield. So the creativity apart from Cunha, you don't really have much. And I think a lot's going to be on Cunha's shoulders, and I don't think he'll be able to handle that. And I think for me, that makes Wolves a prime relegation candidate. And there you have it. There has been Season 5, Episode 2. We are trying to look into also changing the structure a little bit. Things will take time. In the words of all the Arsenal fans, even though it's Phase 5, trust the process, like they say with Arteta. Trust it. We're looking to, try new things. And also move forward with a bunch of very many exciting projects and propositions that I have in mind and that we're trying to get patented out for us. But wherever you're watching this in the world, we hope you enjoyed it, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching our upload, and let us know down in the comments below, what are your thoughts on anything and everything addressed in this feature of Premier League Primetime? Smash a like on the video, and make sure you subscribe to our channel. And be sure to check out our other platforms on Instagram, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And we hope you have an absolutely fantastic day/evening. Take care.